Hello again, everybody. This is Joseph, continuing about Crown Victoria's Continental, Grand Marquis. Same principle is applied to anything. If you have a no-start problem, this schematic should look familiar because regardless of the make or model, you're going to have the same components involved. Obviously, we have a relay. Obviously, we have a transmission range sensor, making sure you are in the proper gear range, and obviously a start, and obviously a fuse. Now, when you have a no start and you take the schematic out, where do you usually start from? Well, it depends what I want to concentrate on. If I want to concentrate on, I think it's the starter is not good, I'll start from the starter, work my way back up. This way and this way. If I think the ignition switch might be faulty, where would I start? I'm not going to start from the fuse. I'll start from the ignition switch, work my way up over here because I see this part of the schematic is connected to the B+. Now, if I think there's a relay problem, where am I going to start? I'll go to the relay. Work my way up, back here, trace it back this way. Now remember, when I trace my way back up, I have to go back to B+. So when I go back here, if I go over here, this is not B+. I go back over here, this is B+. So therefore, it depends what you're looking for. But we have a no start. Let's start first analyzing the situation, how it works. Again, this is for any Ford. We had this in Toyotas and in Chevys. The principle is the same. Now, we're going to start, since we're analyzing, there are two things involved, two ingredients you always need. You always need, like we just discussed, a transmission range sensor. We always have to be in the park or the neutral. We cannot be in reverse. And you can see it from the schematic. If you are in any of these points, there is no connection to the relay. The only connection that you have is through neutral and through park. So terminal 12 and terminal 10. White pink wire, and then it comes into a red light blue wire. Other criteria that you need is, you see this is the basics of everything. Every make and model, you need an ignition switch, but you need that ignition switch to be in the start position. You cannot be in run, and you cannot be in lock or accessories because there is no connection for it. There are connections to accessories but it's not in this schematic because this is not going to turn on the starter. You have to be in the starter. You see this? From B4 to this is a connection. When you flip the switch, this switch is in now making contact from here to here. So I highlight it in this position. The switch is flipped here when you put it in start. Then current can flow into this. So you need these two criterias regardless of any make or model. Now, again, let's start from now. We can start from the battery. We know we have 12 volts coming from the battery. We always follow current flow. So current, we see a couple of paths that we can take. We see current can flow here. Current can flow up here. Current can flow up here. Wherever there's a node, this is called a node. That means we have a path for current to flow. Why do I teach current? You'll see why. If we start in this path and say, okay, first let's go this way. If we start in this path, you need the solenoids to be activated. For this switch to be activated to the starter motor, this has to be accomplished first. So therefore, this is the wrong path for us to take right now. Somehow we have to come to this path. Let's go up here. We go over here. We could go either way. Now, if we go up here, this is called the fuse link. Now, you notice over here there's two fuse links because we're talking about actually a police interceptor where they need it just in case one burns out, the other one is still intact. And they always have current flowing to the starter motor. This is a unique situation with these police interceptors. Now, current goes over here, goes through a fuse, which is rated at 30 amps, and it's called fuse number 2. Located, obviously, in here, in a junction box. Now, how much did I have over here? 12 volts. How much do I have over here? This is called a splice because you have connections going from it. Splice 114, 12 volts over here, 12 volts over here. Why? And I repeat this all the time so people will understand why. There is no voltage loss from here till here. There's a straight wire. There is no voltage loss from here to the other side. Why? Because it's just two wires melted together, coming in contact with each other. There's no voltage. Unless it's open and it's melted, then it will be open. 12 volts here, 0 here. So 12 volts here through a straight wire, 12 volts here. 12 volts over here. Why? Again, this gray wire is just a simple wire. I do not lose any voltage. This fuse is intact. How much should I get on the other side? One side, which is the gray, should be 12. The other side, which is the yellow, should be 12. We do not have any voltage drop across this fuse. Now we come over here, we come to another called a splice. 127. Now we have a problem. Which path do we take? We want to get the starter motor, but in order to get the starter motor, we need these solenoids to be activated. But look what also has to be activated. In order for this to be accomplished, this has to go from 30 to 87A. The only way that happens is if current first flows in this direction, through this, to create the electromagnetic field. You see this dotted line? That means when this has current flowing through it, that field, magnetic field that's built, will pull this in. This happens after this happens. If this does not happen, this will not be pulled in. So when we come to, if we follow this path first, we're stuck. Why? Because this has to be activated only after this. That brings us back to this path. So current flows here. This is why I started current. Remember I brought up the question, why do I follow current? If you follow power or voltage, you'll be lost. Current first can only flow over here once this is magnetized. So we have to come back up here and see how it gets magnetized. Current flows, 12 volts still here, into this yellow wire. How much over here? 12 volts at the ignition switch. Why? Just a simple wire. Now, I put the key in start. We said the only position that will allow it to start is obviously in the start position. Start over here. We go over here, we come out here. So the white and pink wire. Usually the second one denotes the stripe. So it's a pink stripe. So therefore, yellow wire, 12 volts. On the white and pink, 12 volts. Why? Simple wire. It's just a switch. No voltage loss. And I'll repeat this so people understand, because someone asked me, how do I know what the voltages should be? Well, if you're going from one wire to another wire, there is no voltage loss. We did not lose any voltage. 12 volts here coming in the input, and the output should be 12 volts. Now, we follow the current flow. This is a white-pink wire. This is, again, a white-pink wire. The same thing. We come to a splice. Okay? This goes to also the module for the door. We're not interested in that. We have a no-start problem. We come over here, terminal 12. We said either park or neutral. We need that criteria to start the starter motor. Therefore, 12 volts here. Why 12 volts? A wire. The input is 12. The output is also 12. Why? It's just a switch. We don't lose any voltage. So I hope that helps the person who was asking me, how do you know how much the voltage it should be? Again, come out this terminal, red, light blue, and the stripe is probably light blue. At 10, we're going into terminal 86, and you'll find this a lot in these relays: terminal 86, terminal 85, 87, and 30. These are usually the terminal numbers of the relay. So therefore, 12 volts here, 12 volts here, straight wire. This red and light blue wire is just a wire, no voltage drop. 12 here, 12 here. Now, we have current flowing in this direction through the splice called 113, which is a black wire. How much do we have here? We have 12 volts here, we said. How much over here? Do we have 12 volts here? Impossible. This is ground. If this is ground, this is 0 volts. Where's all my voltage then across this relay? I lost 12 volts across this. How do I know? 12 volts here, 0 volts here. That means I lost 12 volts. So fine. Now we have one criteria done for us. Now we have this field created around this. Great. That means now current can flow over here and activate these contacts from 30 to 87. Once these contacts are closed, and I'll draw it for you so you understand. Once these contacts are closed, now current can flow into the solenoids, activate the solenoids, and then activate the starter motor. So therefore, 12 volts here, 12 volts over here. Why 12 volts here? Because it's just a switch. I didn't lose any voltage. So the sequence of events, and I listed it. What has to happen first? This has to happen first. Once this happens, number one, number two happens. Once this happens, this is closed, this happens. This creates a magnetic field, a solenoid. Then number 4 happens, then the starter is activated. This is a sequence of events, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's why I numbered them. Now, getting back to the original thing. No start. I put it in the start position, and now you know why you have to have the key in the start position. That's the only thing that will start the relay. And I hear nothing. I hear absolutely nothing, right? Well, how to approach it, how to attack it. Well, we know the starter might be somewhere under the chassis or somewhere hard to get to. So where do I concentrate on? I'm going to concentrate on the relay or the fuses. Why? Because these components I could get to easily, right? Then we all know that they're under, this is under the front engine compartment, they say, behind the battery. And this also. So it's an easy place to get to. If I want to get to the starter, boy, that might be under the engine or somewhere. That's going to be in a hard place to get to. So remember, try to find somewhere that you can get. But I want to prove myself. There's a no start position. Do I think it's the battery? I go to the battery and I measure 12 volts. It's the first thing that I do. And sure enough, it measures 12.4, whatever it is. Good enough to start it. Now what do? I say, okay, is the fuse good? Well, I go to the fuse and I measure 12 volts here. And I measure, how much did I measure over here if it's good? 12 volts. Well, that's good. So therefore, this is good. This is good. What am I left with? Oh boy, it could be the ignition switch. That's not easy to take apart, right? In the steering wheel. How about over here? On this, with the gear shift? No, that's hard to take apart. This is easy to get to. So therefore, if I ask a question, what should I do? You're going to tell me, well, that's easy. Just jump from here to here and see if the starter comes on. If I jump from here to here, you know what? That's not going to help me that much. First of all, like I said, it's hard to get to the starter motor. Second of all that's going to tell me is the starter motor good? What about all this circuitry? What about all this circuitry? What about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? So that doesn't help. What I do, and I put over here, I jump. I put a jumper because it's easy to get to. The relay is easy to get to. I look at the relay, terminal 30, terminal 87. I know that is the contact, the switch. Do not jump this. Do not jump this. When you're jumping this, there is no resistance in the circuit. You'll blow the fuse for sure. This is like a jumper. When I go and I jump from here to here, even though this is not in the equation right now, this is telling me that this is good and then this will activate that this is good. So at least I know all this is good, the solenoids and the starter motor. It doesn't tell me that. It tells me there still might be a problem here, still might be a problem here, that it didn't activate this. Because why wasn't this activated? Maybe this is not in the right position. Maybe this is not in the right position. Maybe this is not in the right position. Maybe current never came here because this was blown. Maybe this never received 12 volts because this was melted or open. Therefore, this never received 12 volts. Then you have to go from component to component. But the first thing is to jump the relay. It's easy to do. So therefore, I will jump it. Current can flow. See? Actually, if current flows, if current flows, this does tell me the fuse link is good, the fuse is good. So you already took out two components. Again, let me do it again. Once I jump this tells me the current flows here, current is flowing here, current is flowing here, and all this circuit from here to here is good. Now I have to concentrate on this, and maybe the relay itself is not good, or maybe I'm not connected to ground. Okay? So, anyway, thanks for the subscribers. I'm shocked I have so many subscribers. I never thought I would have even that much subscribers. The views, obviously, is a tale of two cities, as they say. So anyway, I'm going to make another one on something called a lighting control module and something about how to measure continuity. I think something you've never seen before. So again, I want to reiterate and I want to stress the point. You have a no-start problem. You measured the battery, right? And you measured the fuse. If I measure the fuse here, this tells me this fuse link is good. Therefore, I jump over here. I know all of this part of this circuit is good. The problem might be here. The problem might be here. This might be an open wire. This might be an open wire between here and here. This might be open. And that's why I put stars over here. These are the components that might be faulty. So go over it, pause the video, whatever you need to understand it. But again, whenever you have a no start, I always go for the relay. It's the easiest thing to do. It's hard to get to the starter. It's hard to take apart the ignition switch. It's hard to take apart the transmission to know if it's in gear shift and all that. Don't waste time like that. And sometimes it's even hard to get to the fusible link. So anyway, that's the first step that I do. Anyway, thanks for watching. And like I said, make other videos. Thanks.